never made it, but I know what it takes. I'm motivated by a mix of emotion. Got my statement, and I'm reading it slow so I can understand it fully. Appreciate my standing, go out of this world and right on time. Oh, never in my life have I seen the sky light up like this. I'm far away from Earth and I wanna know if you exist. Mission control, do you read me? Send me my coordinates lately. Mission control, am I drifting? Tie me to someone who will love me, yeah. Wait, I think I'll last a bit longer. Fine.
Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd family part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. What a great way to kick off my Sunday. A beautiful orange Clemson shirt and a beautiful orange Clemson hat. But today here on the channel we're going to be talking some college football and how can they fix it and how do you fix it. We'll talk about that coming up here in a couple of minutes, but first I want to give you the Bleacher Report way too early top 25. Now, I'm not a fan at all of the Bleacher Report when they write articles and things like that. To me, they do too much of the ESPN type stuff where they say stuff just for clickbait, just to get you to watch and read, and half the time even they don't believe what they say. And I personally don't like that. When I'm listening or reading or watching somebody when it comes to sports, I want to know that at least they believe what they say. Even if they're wrong, they believe it. But if I watch you or listen to you and I'm thinking to myself, oh, you're just making that up, I just don't care to listen to you or watch you, because I never know when you're being honest and when you're just talking out your butt. But when it comes to rankings, it's opinionated like every other poll, so I'm okay with it. But Bleacher Report released their way too early top 25, even though we have not even yet finished the 2023 college football season, because the national championship game comes up tomorrow night. They have Alabama number 1, followed by Georgia, Michigan, Oregon, and Texas as your top 5. 6 through 10 is Utah, Ohio State, Ole Miss, Oklahoma, and Clemson. And then we have Notre Dame, Penn State, Arizona, Florida State, and LSU at 15. Washington, Missouri, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, and Iowa at 20. And 21 through 25 is NC State, USC, Miami, SMU, and Kansas. So if Bleacher Report is accurate, then starting with Alabama down to Penn State will be your 12 playoff teams. And of course, like every year, there's going to be somebody that comes out ranked top 5 or top 10 that's not going to be near as good as what they say. And there's going to be somebody that's either unranked or barely ranked that ends up being way better than expected. So we'll have to wait and find out who will be the surprisingly good team and who will be the surprisingly bad team. But how do you fix it? And the reason why I bring that up is because whether you're a Georgia fan or not, you have to give Kirby Smart credit for being very, very classy. And when they played Florida State in their bowl game, which was a week ago yesterday, Georgia completely dominated the game. I told everybody it wouldn't be close, and it was worse than even I thought it would be, even though I knew Georgia would dominate the game. But when you say things like Kirby Smart said in his press conference after the game, you can respect it when his team wins the game. Earlier in the football season, South Carolina played Missouri, and Shane Beamer walks into his press conference after the game in Columbia, Missouri, and the first thing he starts doing is complaining about how bad the facilities are at Missouri. Now, is he right? We don't know unless you've been to Columbia, Missouri and been on the football field. You don't know. But even if he is right, when you say stuff like that after a game, when your team loses, or when your team plays like doo-doo, it comes across as sour grapes and you're whining. But when you win in dominant fashion like Georgia did, and the coach says something like that, you kind of listen more. And he was basically talking about, the bowl games, and it's something people have talked about for a long time. But my question is, how do you fix it? The only thing that irks me about it is, take Florida State's quarterback, for example, Jordan Travis. He got hurt and missed the rest of the year in the game before Florida, which I believe was North Alabama. If I'm not mistaken, that's who they played. It was some rinky-dink high school cheerleading team. Now, you're going to tell me that all these players will play against North Alabama in a meaningless game in the middle of November, but then you won't play in a big-time bowl game? That makes zero sense to me. I understand it's not a playoff game. I get that. But you can go out there, play Georgia, and beat Georgia, and finish in the top 5, and then you can say, hey, see how good we are? If we can beat Georgia, we deserve to be a playoff team. But instead, you go out there and your whole team sits out and you get destroyed. But I don't understand the philosophy of, I'll play against North Alabama in November, even though if the whole entire team sits out and you play all your third string guys, you're still going to beat North Alabama, but you won't play in a bowl game because it's not a playoff game. To me, your team would need you more against Georgia than they would need you against North Alabama. But anyway, I digress. How do you fix it? Because to me, the only two ways you can fix it is, one way is to make the players sign a contract and tell them their NIL is worth, this much money, but it's only this much money if you play the entire season. If you set out the bowl game, you lose, X amount of dollars. That's one way. The other way you can fix it is go ahead and pay the players, and then after the season, if they decide to sit out the bowl game, then you tell them, hey, you give us your NIL money back, because your NIL money was supposed to be for playing. You didn't play, so either give it back to us or give it back to the school. And those two things can and will fix it, but the problem is, if you make them sign those clauses in their contracts, then you've got to quit calling it college football, because professional athletes get paid and they sign contracts. Collegiate football players get paid, but they don't have contracts. But if you start giving them contracts, it's not college football. You've got to just change the name to minor league football. So outside of that, is there another way you can fix it? I don't know that there is, because you can't make players play if they don't want to play. But you also see with the Florida State situation, why the transfer portal will not work on a yearly basis for your whole team. And now you see why, Dabo takes so much flack for not using it, even though he does use it on occasion. He only gets one or two players. It's okay to get 4 or 5 players. But Florida State, outside of their quarterback, almost their entire team was transfer players. Well, they're coming there for 2 reasons: to make more money and to win a championship. Well, at the end of the regular season, they've already got their money, and when they don't go to the playoffs, they can't win a championship, so they have no reason to play. So it's basically you're hiring mercenaries. And when they have no reason to play, they don't play. And it was the same way this year with Colorado. Deion Sanders ran off the entire team from 2022. And Colorado got off to a hot start. But then all of a sudden, when they hit a rough patch, they just quit. Because when you have an entire roster of transfer portal players, there's no team, there's no camaraderie. Everybody on the team, everybody on the roster is there for themselves and themselves only. And that's why if you use the transfer portal, use it for 4 or 5 positions that you really need. Don't build a team on that, because you can't get 65, 70 transfer players every year and win consistently. You just can't do it. But how do you fix it? How do you make players play in bowl games? I don't know that you can. And I've never understood it, and I'll never understand it. Because the way I was raised, it didn't matter what you were doing. You gave it your all, you gave it your best until it was all said and done. And people laugh at me when I tell them, but I'm being honest. If Clemson was 0-12 and they were playing in the 0-12 bowl against another team that was 0-12, and the winner of that game got to finish 1-12, I would watch that game, hoping that Clemson won, because the 1-12 is better than 0-13. I'm a Clemson fan through and through. Always have been, always will be. That's never going to change. But growing up, when I played on, the church softball team or whatever it was, we all played, and whether we won or lost, we enjoyed it. But we went out there every single night during the season, and we played. There was never a time where we said, you know what, let's just don't play today. Let's just cancel and go home. And I've been a referee now for wrestling for almost 17 years. It'll be 17 years in July. And I have never, to this day, got in my truck and drove to a wrestling show and said, you know what, tonight, man, I'm going to go out there and I'm just going to give it half the effort. If I suck, who cares? If I mess up, who cares? I might just stay backstage and not even go out there. I've never had those thoughts cross my mind. So when somebody tells me they don't want to play in a game, I just don't understand it. To me, if you don't want to play in the game, you shouldn't play. Especially in the bowl game when it's a city, a lot of times, that you've never played in a stadium you've never played in front of fans you've never seen before. So why would you not want to go on vacation and get paid to go on vacation and spend a week in whatever, state you're in, whatever city you're in, and then come game day say, I won't play. It does not compute in my brain. It's never made sense. It never will make sense. That's why I always get mad when certain fans will say that their head coach, he's not a good leader, or he's not a good motivator, or our team really doesn't have any leadership. That makes no sense to me. To me, if you've got to have 4 or 5 players on the team to be leaders, then that means the rest of the team are followers. I don't want a team of 5 leaders and 80 followers. I want a team that's all leaders. If you need somebody to go out there and tell you to play, don't play. If you need somebody to go out there and tell you to tackle, don't play. You know what your job is. Go do your job. If you've got to be motivated to go out there and run the ball, if you've got to be motivated to go out there and throw the ball, don't play. You signed up for it. Either do it or don't. But if you need motivation to do it, don't do it. I've never understood it and I never will. But how do you fix it? How can you tell somebody that they have to play in a bowl game? I don't know that you can without a contract. But then it's not college football. It's minor league football. Any thoughts on this? Please feel free to let me know. Homes for Our Troops is a publicly funded 501c nonprofit organization that builds and donates specially adapted custom homes nationwide for severely injured post 9/11 veterans. Since the 2004 inception, nearly 90 cents of every dollar spent has gone directly to our program services for veterans. Visit at hfotusa.org. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. Two antennas got married. The ceremony was okay, but the reception was excellent. And that does it for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.